What is up, everybody? So, I want to have a discussion about something that's been talked about amongst my musician friends, and that is reading tablature versus reading a musical staff, reading music. And I've been told by one guitarist, or maybe two or three, that I would be much better if I learned to read music. I have tried to learn to read music and I just can't grasp it. I don't know why. But tablature is what really elevated my guitar playing. And I was taught by my neighbor that lived right up the street up here from me years ago. He showed me what the numbers were, which is, your frets. And then the lines represent your strings, but then the top line is your highest, or no, lowest string. I think it is. No, highest string. And then the bottom line is your low string. So it's like your guitar neck is upside down. But I don't know. I mean, I've heard people say if you learn by tabs, you will be basically musically illiterate. Like you can learn all your favorite licks and riffs and songs, and you'll know where to put your fingers and what it takes to do, the technique. You can learn techniques and stuff like that. But you will be musically illiterate if someone were to ask you, what's going on here? Like, what key are you in? What scale are you using for that solo? Or what chord progression and all that stuff? You won't be able to tell them. In my opinion, really, your chord progressions, that stuff should be memorized when you're learning basic chords and learning, like, basic songs that have like G, C, D, and E or something like that. And then for scales, you can't really tell what scale it is by the tabs unless you know your theory, which I don't really know a lot of theory. But if you go to get you a book on scales and learn it, you will see all this stuff. When you start learning tablature, you'll be playing it, looking at your hands, and you can refer all that back to the scale book. Actually, one book that I recommend every guitarist get, and it comes with two DVDs so that you can visually see it in a lesson on your TV or laptop or whatever you want to watch it on, is Rusty Cooley's Fretboard Autopsy. And he shows you all the modes and all this different stuff. There's all kinds of lessons in this book that teaches you how to visualize the fretboard and unlock the fretboard. Now, I may be getting off topic as far as reading music versus tab, but yeah, reading music, if you're taught by a classical instructor how to read music, you can sight read, which means you sit down in front of your music and you look at the music and play it without looking at your fingers because you just know. You know what to do. And that comes through years of lessons. And I had one guitar buddy, he took classical lessons, formal classical guitar lessons. And he said, they're pretty strict on you. And even in that, tablature is a no-no. And he said, like, they teach you with your fretting hand that your thumb must always stay behind your second finger, which will be your bird finger. And if you deviate from what they teach you with that, they will come by and grab your hand, hit it with a ruler, and say, put it back in the position that we showed you. He said it was almost like a military, man. They're that strict on you. And they expect you to learn pieces like a big epic classical piece. And they expect you to play that in front of the class and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm glad I didn't go into classical lessons because, man, like my ADHD, I wouldn't be able to memorize all that and do it without some sort of mistake. But I can't really speak too much on the tablature versus reading music thing. But get that Fretboard Autopsy book. I mean, it's really cool. It's done by Rockhouse, and it comes with the DVDs, so that if you're not too versed on tab, you can look at it on a DVD on your TV or whatever, like I said, and you'll be able to see it that way. And you also get the chance to hear how it should sound. And see, that's where tablature really helped me. Was I would sit down with like Master of Puppets, just to throw a song out there, and I would open the book, put the song on, and listen and look at the book. And I see all the chords and the riffs, and I'm like, okay, this part's supposed to sound like this. That part is supposed to sound like that. So, see, that's what music teaches you differently. When you see the time signature and the sharp symbols, that tells you your rhythm, and that tells you what key you're playing in. And you pretty much know how it's supposed to sound just based off of that. And the most common time for most music is 4/4. 4 beats to a measure. Quarter note is the beat. That's what I've learned as far as reading music. So what is 4/4? So 4/4 is common. If you see something in a music book that has a C as the time signature, it means common, which is 4/4, the most common time of all music. And it's 4 beats to a measure. And I think one measure is 4 bars. I think that's right. So it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a measure. And there's 1 beat, 2 beat, 3 beat, 4 beats. That's how that goes, apparently. I don't know how true that is. Y'all can research this stuff. You can go online and you can find all kinds of stuff to teach you to read tabs or to teach you to read music. But I think most of this stuff is probably brought up just by snobs, that's like, oh, guitar tabs isn't real music, you're not reading it right. And you're not playing, the piece exactly as the person that wrote it is playing it. Which, yes, that is one thing about tablature that you might want to realize is that a lot of it, even in books, is somewhat inaccurate. They are the same notes. They will produce the same sound as what's on the album you're listening to or what song you're trying to learn, but it may not be how the artist actually plays it. Like I have the Killswitch Engage anthology book, and it says in the front of the book on the first page of it, they want to thank Joel for coming in and helping with the transcriptions so that they got it right. And I was like, wow, that's cool. How many companies will call in the person that wrote most of the stuff to make sure they get it right in the tabs? Now, the Satriani tab books I've watched countless hours of Satriani live videos, and from what I can see with the tablature books, it is accurate to what he's playing. Now, he will lose me on a lot of his legato runs and stuff. Like, I don't know if any of that's actually accurate, but when you play it from the book, it sounds exactly like what Joe is doing. And here's a tip. Here's a guitar tip for you guitar players out here that are just starting out. When you play your guitar, look in a mirror if you can. Stand in front of a mirror with your guitar plugged to your amp and play and watch your fingers in the mirror. You will get a visual representation of what your playing looks like. Is it neat? Is it nice looking? Or are your fingers all over the place? And you can kind of visually see what you're doing, and you can get it in your head as to how you need to correct that. This is basically just a chat about music. I mean, I've known guys that can't read a lick of music, can't read a lick of tabs, and play better than I ever would. Like that guy Bugsy that passed away, our good friend of the family. He couldn't read music, he couldn't read tabs. He learned everything he learned by ear. And he would sit and just listen and listen and listen until he figured it out. And then I got on Facebook one day and it had Willie Adler's page on there. And I'm like, I'm gonna shoot him a message after I had seen them live, Lamb of God. I'm gonna shoot him a message and see if he'll respond to me. And I asked him, I was like, hey man, I was just wondering, you know, do you think learning music theory would help me as a guitar player? And he responded while I was in the doctor's office with my dad. And he said, I still have no idea of anything theory wise, and it's never hindered me in being able to rock. So learn it if you want to, learn it if you don't, or don't learn it if you don't want to. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. But then I've heard other guitar players, like Rusty Cooley. He said, music is a language. You gotta learn how to speak it. And what he means by that is learn theory so that when you're playing with somebody and they ask you, what are you doing? You can tell them what's going on with what you're playing. And Rusty said, hey, you can't always say, like, hey man, just put your finger here. You know, you'll be able to tell them what chords you're using, what scale you're in, what key you're in, what time signature you're playing it in, and all this different stuff. And that really helps when you're playing with other musicians. And then Mark Morton of Lamb of God, he said that he heard Willie Adler playing, you know, and he said he just picked up a guitar, started playing things he heard and things in his head, and that makes for very odd pieces. But it's some of the most original stuff I've ever heard anybody play. And he said he would bring stuff in to the practice space and be like, well, it goes like this, and play it out. And Mark said, like, I don't even get it. Like, I don't know what time signature it's in. I don't know when does it repeat? When does it start over? But he said that Willie's playing some of the most original stuff he's ever heard. And it really is. I mean, for me, like Lamb of God, like Willie has some very original stuff. And so, tablature, yeah, you may not be reading legitimate music. You may not be reading it like a classical guitarist would or a jazz guitarist would, but is it making the notes come out and making it sound like what you're learning? Sure, it definitely will. And that's what matters. As long as you can play it and get it under your fingers and really analyze it and get it in your ears, you can learn it through tab. And really, like I always say, if it's right for you, do it. I mean, I read tab all the time, and I'm gonna do a video here soon of all of my tab books that I own. And I've had this stuff ever since high school, middle school, when I used to play in bands. And a lot of these songs in here we used to play. We used to cover them. And so, that's kind of what I want to talk about. Tablature is a great way to really elevate your guitar playing. Like after you learn your chords and everything like that, and you get comfortable on your instrument, but you want to progress, start reading tab. I mean, it's really helped me, and I bet it can help you guys too. And people that see this that play, if you guys read tabs or music, give me some responses in the comments about what you think is better. Just one other thing about tablature: be careful of your like ultimate guitar and stuff like that, because a lot of those tabs are done by people. They're not done by a music company like Cherry Lane or Hal Leonard. And a lot of it is inaccurate, just to let you guys know. And if you use Ultimate Guitar, I'm not trying to bash you. I used to use it too. I've used Ultimate Guitar. I use Songster all the time. And what other? Is there any other tab apps that I've used? Guitar chords and tabs. I used that one for a while. And the cool thing about Songster, that app is actually cool because you can download it on your phone. Then you pay $5, one-time fee, and you get access to premium for life. And you can slow down the song. You can play it to hear what it's supposed to sound like, and it gives you the vocals, it gives you the drums, the bass, both guitars. It gives you everything. And I've learned a few Killswitch songs that I didn't know that weren't in my books from that app. So that's what I wanted to chat about before I go to sleep here tonight. And I hope you guys enjoyed. If not, that's okay too. Please like and subscribe if you feel the need. And I appreciate you guys watching.